top of Chaf Aleph and with that very first line, third word. Tan Rabbanan. Avel Gimel Yamim Shlosha Yamim Harishonim Asur B'Malacha. The first 3 days an Avel cannot do any form of work whatsoever. Means laborious work. It doesn't mean turning on lights. It means, going to work like Chol Moed. V'afilo ani amisparnes min tzedakah. And even if ani has no way to make ends meet, he's dependent upon tzedakah, which means he has absolutely no financial assets. He can't go to malacha. Mikan v'elach oseh b'tzina. After that, an avel can't go out and do work, but if he needs the money, the Rishonim explained that this is talking about b'misparnes min tzedakah, where not every avel goes out to work with tzina, but if you are the last, it started out by saying you can't do malacha, and even ani can't do malacha. From that point on, you can work with tzina b'soch beiso. That's referring to the ani. Doesn't mean anybody. Right. Anybody who doesn't have to do that doesn't have to go to work. B'toch beiso, v'isha tova b'pelach b'toch beiso, and a woman, this is where she spins the spindle. The pelach is the spindle, right?
The one we had before.
Not spindle.
That thing we had.
I forget the name. The part with the weight on the bottom.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No,
okay.
The one that wasn't so good. It was like a sort of so-so, right?
Okay. It's like a stone. They call it an eben. It's a stone with a shaft. What was it called?
I don't know. Okay. It's called the pelach. But now, and the reason that's mentioned once again, this is dealing with a woman who is very poor, and this is a kind of off and on kind of work. It's not the kind of work that was laborious all day, and it probably wasn't heavy duty work, right? It was more repetitive labor. So once again, it's a type of minimalistic work where a woman who is an aniyah, hamisparneses min tzedakah, would be allowed to do that. Okay. Period. I mean, that's just black and white. Tan Rabbanan. Avel Gimel Yomim Harishonim Eina Holech LeBeit Ha'Avel. An Avel on the first 3 days doesn't go to a Shiva house. Now you're going to say Shiva house, he is the Shiva house. So once again, the Rishonim explained that we're talking about he's another family member who's passed away, right? He would be...
Well, even if he wanted to visit a close family, right? Even if he wasn't sitting Shiva for them, no? I don't know.
You said we didn't do this.
We don't do it. Well, right. So in other words, we don't. We'll see on the moment we don't do it. So he doesn't go to Beis Ha'Avel. Mikan ve'elach holech ve'enu yoshev b'makom hamenachim elo b'makom hamisnachimim. So if he does, from that point on, he can go. Once again, the Rishonim say this is only if the mace was a korov of some sort, but he doesn't sit with the people who are comforters, right, but he sits with the avelim themselves, misnachamim. Okay. Now, once again, what I explained is the Rishonim explained we don't do this today. Novel sits at home; he doesn't go out for anyone. In other words, he's sitting Shiva for a relative. If, let's say, a cousin of his passed away, he's not one of the 7 direct relatives, so he stays where he is. And the reason is, and this is what they point out, that in those days people came and they sat. So in other words, today you go pay a Shiva call, you stay for, I don't know, half hour, 20 minutes, whatever it is, and you get up and you leave. It's very alright. It's really not sitting. You're there to pay respect. You're there to comfort, and then you go. Back in the day, apparently people went and they moved in for the half a day or for the day, and they stayed for a long time. So Novel, it has sense. Novel sitting Shiva, it's Shiva here. So now it looks like he's sitting Shiva today in another place. That's okay. And then he gets up and goes back home. That would make sense in a case of where there's a real need for it, such as a korov. And even here, if it's not a korov, then the Ovel does not go to the house of the Shiva, right? Even in the days of the Mishnah of the Gemara. Now, Tosas points out that this actually does have a basis for one important minhag that we have on Tisha B'Av. The Ovel comes to Shul. Normally the Ovel sits at home. The Ovel comes to Shul on Shabbos, right? And our rule is that he comes in after Chadodi. That's really because the initial minhag was just coming. It's not that he came from Mincha and we went home. He went outside and then he comes in again. They had a Mincha from Minyan in his house from Mincha. He sat Shiva until Shabbos. He got up before Shabbos. He got dressed, whatever it is, washed and clean. Came to Shul. When did he come to Shul? He came to Shul for the end of Kabbalah Shabbos, which is Mizmor Shil Yom Shabbos. That's actually when Shabbos begins. So for Shabbos he would come in, and in fact usually what would happen is the Ovel would go home to have a minyan from Marav after Shabbos. The only time the Ovel comes out of his house really was Shabbos. But Tisha B'Av is not Shabbos. But the minhag is that Ovel, there are no Shiva calls, or there was no minyan for Shiva on Tisha B'Av. The reason is because we are all Avelim. And when the Ovel comes to Shul on Tisha B'Av and sits down, he is sitting with the Misnachamim. He is sitting with we who are the bereft, because we're all bereft for the Beis Hamikdash. And he is bereft, of course, for his Karov, right? But he falls in the same category. So in other words, you see that an Ovel, halachically speaking, was permitted to get up and go to a house of a relative when he sat for long periods of time. That's what happened on Tisha B'Av. You're sitting for long periods of time. You sit down, you say Mara, you say Kinnis, you say Shachris, you say Kriyas Torah, you say Kinnis. So that's the same thing. That becomes the paradigm of what we do today on Tisha B'Av. Okay. Okay. Now, the difference, of course, whether Tosas also points out this may not be literally the same minhag, because this seems to be that after 3 days, right? What does the Halacha say? The first 3 days he doesn't go to a house of Avel. Right. After 3 days he does. Right. Our minhag does not differentiate between 3 days or after 3 days for Tisha B'Av. So once again, it seems to be based on it, but it's not exactly as well. So it's not clear if this is the minhag got tweaked, the minhag got changed. But it looks a little bit like what we have here. Okay. Anyways, Tan Rabbanan. Avel Gimel Yamim Harishonim. And this halacha we do keep, is kept. The first 3 days, Asur B'Shelat Shalom. For the first 3 days, the Avel may not initiate a greeting. Okay, may not greet someone. And by the way, that's not just if you're saying Shalom Aleichem, even good morning is the same thing, right? It's not just Shem Hashem. So the first 3 days, also B'Shel Shalom, Mishlosha V'Yad Shiva, for the first, and he can't even respond from the third day until the 7th day. Meishiv Eino Shoel, he can respond, but he can't initiate the greeting itself.
What's the reason for that?
So the Avelus is a little bit less. And I guess as therefore, it's one thing not to initiate a greeting, but not to respond.
Nothing matters.
It looks like you have no concern about anyone, which I guess the Ovel does not. So.
But why doesn't he initiate?
Because he doesn't feel like because an Ovel during Shiva doesn't really care about other people.
Well,
he doesn't care about life. It's hard, and it's somewhat hypocritical to say Shalom Aleichem is peace with you, peace be you. There is no peace for the Ovel.
But let's say they're making it into a rule. They're not giving an option.
Yeah, correct.
You may not. You must not do this.
Okay.
What does he feel like doing it?
So the answer is Avelus is a formalization of a lot of feelings and emotions that people felt. And Chazal took those emotions and put them into a halachic structure. And even though you'll say there's a continuum of how people feel, but they felt that's the way it is. So we have strange things, such as there's no Avelus on Yontif. Yontif stopped. He's happy, suddenly became happy. And the answer is yeah. Chazal say happiness of the klal, happiness of the Jewish people overrides personal sadness. So therefore, in a Yontif, Chag, we celebrate freedom, we celebrate spirituality, we celebrate simcha that overrides the personal suffering. What if the Avel is still sad? We say, well, he's still sad, he wants to shiv, he can't. So I'm saying there's a lot of formalization of a lot of emotions. This is one example where there's a difference between the first 3 days and the last 4 days of Shiva.
Do we still follow that distinction? How does it do?
So I think we don't follow the distinction because the Gemara in Maseches Brachos says that a person has to be careful to respond to anyone who gives him Shalom Aleichem. And it brings all kinds of stories there about great scholars who were careful to respond. So you see, if they were careful to respond in all kinds of cases to all kinds of people, then it means we also have to respond all the time. So I think it may be according to the halacha. We'll take a look in a moment what it exactly is. It may not be exactly what the Gemara is. Okay, let's finish up a couple lines and I'll take a look and see what it says. Okay, so we have about the difference according to Gemara between the first 3 days and between the remaining 4 days in terms of greetings and responding. Okay, let's go through. After the 7 days, he can give greetings all the time, so 7 to 30, and of course from 30 days from a month until the year is over. Okay, so why don't we just look this up now before we get on to the story that happened with Rabbi Akiva. Exchanging greetings, 2:14.
We're going to sell it.
It's gone.
Any work on
2:17. Okay. All right. The mourner is forbidden to inquire about another's welfare. During Shiva, a mourner should be strict even about expressions which is not actually inquiries of shalom, such as good morning and the like. During the first 3 days of mourning, During the first 3 days of mourning, the mourner is forbidden to ask anyone's welfare. If others who do not know he's a mourner ask about his welfare, he should not answer except to inform them that he is a mourner. So the first 3 days, yes, he doesn't.
So this distinction in the Gemara we observe.
Yes.
I must say, I've never been conscious of this distinction.
As an Avel, Khalil,
the difference between the first 3 and the last 4.
So you don't ask any of them.
So because the answer is you're cognizant when you go into a Shiva house, you don't give greetings to the Avel.
Yeah, exactly. Any of the days.
Right. The issue of the Avel responding is if someone didn't know he was an Avel or didn't know the halacha, does he respond or does he simply not respond?
First 3 days he doesn't.
He does not.
And afterwards he can.
And from the 3rd to 7th day he's forbidden to ask about others' welfare. If others who do not know he's a mourner inquire about his welfare, he is permitted to answer them.
What do you mean they don't know he's a mourner? They come to a Shiva house, how can they not know? I don't mean to be...
I don't
sorry.
know.
Sorry.
I don't know.
I apologize.
They don't know the halacha. Today it happens many times.
People don't know the problem.
Well, I'll tell you something. You know what?
People don't know.
More significantly, you know what? We are so used to saying, hello, how are you?
Yeah.
Right? It happens.
People...
What can you say, how are you? What can you ask him how he is? I mean, how could he be?
Well, I'm saying, so forget how are you. How about good morning, good afternoon, good evening? That's something we don't even think about, right? And in fact, the good probably is really a derivative of God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Right? Like sure. Goodbye is God be with you. So yeah, I think so. Okay, it's not just we translate Hebrew Boker Tov, right? Laila Tov.
Yeah.
But I think etymologically, you don't find Boker Tov or Laila Tov in the Middle Ages. You find Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem Shalom.
Okay, because I think the Mishnah Berurah say, can you greet someone in the bathroom?
Right.
Because in Polish they say the Polish word for God. Can you say it in Polish? Mishnah Berurah says you can't. I forget now. We're learning it.
So.
In the halacha, they refer to Safra Kattan.
Right, correct.
Which is very.
Which I guess of good morning. Yeah. Okay, so maybe it is. Now, I'll just read a little more here. If one who asks about his welfare, here you actually want to know if you don't know, how's it possible you don't know he's a mourner? If one who asks about his welfare knows that he is a mourner and knows that he is forbidden to ask about his welfare, the mourner should not answer him at all.
Because you go to a Shiva house, you know he's a mourner.
Okay. From 7 to 30 days, he's permitted to ask about others' welfare since they are in a state of well-being, and all the more so he's permitted to answer them. Okay, but others are forbidden to ask about his welfare. That's interesting. Okay. So you can't even when a person is in shloshim, it says, and I think the Gemara says as well, you can't be shol v'shlomo.
Oh, shloshim too?
Yeah, you can't ask how he's doing.
You cannot.
Yeah. No,
that's what he said.
No. Up until shloshim, right? Okay, and in fact, as you know, maybe you don't know, you can still wish nicham avelim to an avel up to shloshim, right?
I've done a whole year.
No.
You have the shloshim, okay.
Up to shloshim, because really the year is it's avelos, but it's really a lot of kibbut avayim.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
What about initiating conversation? Who can initiate conversation?
So you usually wait for the mourner to initiate conversation, right?
So then mourner can.
There's one thing about talking; it's another thing about asking how you are.
Right.
For us, this is very awkward. And because we are such good Canadians who are full of good manners, you're not going to open a conversation without saying, hello, how are you? And then the question follows.
You always talk.
I mean, maybe not Israelis who are more abrupt would just start off, but we kind of need a lead in.
You taught that way. That's what you brought us.
That's right. We don't even think what it means. Right. Okay. So that's about Sheila Shalom. Okay. All right. Actually, I have a review sheet we'll go over once I do it tomorrow. Okay, so now's the story time. There's a story of the death of the son of Rabbi Akiva. It reads as Banav Shel Rabbi Akiva. I don't know what the Steinzel says. I know there are Nuschos that say Bno.
Meto Banav Shel.
Banav, okay, because you'll see from the story. Mesu, yes. The question is, how many kids die here? One or two? Because you'll see when Rabbi Akiva responds, it looks like he's responding. He says, and if you had even come for two, it would have been this, and surely you came only for one.
Well, here it's clearly
I know.
Two.
Okay.
It's the plural.
So,
sure.
anyways, the other difference is whether they're married or not married. Married means that there's a loss, not just to Rabbi Akiva, there's loss also to the family. Single kids doesn't make it easier for a parent, but it makes the fallout in terms of responsibilities and looking after people is less. So the Gemara is reflecting upon the fact we said Shlosha Yamim Morishonim Asa B'Shela Shalom. The first 3 days, the mourner can't even give shalom, right? The mourner can't give shalom, and we said that on the first 3 days he can't even respond, right?
Right.
So he can't give and he can't even respond on the first 3 days. The Gemara says, is that true? Tanya, we learned the Brisa as follows: the Masechet Smachos, Ma'aso Mesa Banav Shel Rabbi Akiva, the son of Rabbi Akiva died. Nichnasu Kol Yisrael v'Yaspidem Hespei Gadol, B'Shas P'Tivasam. So all the Jewish people came in and they gave a great eulogy. They said all kinds of wonderful things to Rabbi Akiva about his children. They were giving him nechama. Doesn't mean this was a formal hesped like a kfura. Because afterwards they came and they talked what wonderful things and people and kids they were and so forth. B'shas P'tirasam, when they all began to leave. So you get this interesting. They all come together, and you get the feeling it's like right after the kfura. This is the first time people are walking in. So Amar Rabbi Akiva al Safsal Gados. Rabbi Akiva got up on a stool, which was a big stool. He wanted to speak to all these people who came to give him to Bimenachem Ava. V'Amar, and he said, Achenu Beis Yisrael, my dear brothers, Shimu, listen, Afilu Shnei Banim Chasan, even if I had two married sons who died, Minucham, who b'shvil kavod shasitem, I would be comforted by the honor that you did. And so note, not only that you came for one son, well, now you came for one son or for two sons who were single. Even if you had come for two sons who were married, and I would be comforted. B'shvil akiva basem, and you didn't come really for me. Right? Well, he actually probably did. But in Mishvil Akiva Basmi, and if you had come for Akiva, Harikam Akiva Bashok. There are many Akivas. You didn't come for me. I'm no different than anyone else. In other words, there are a lot of people who are out there, and you're not paying shiva calls to. Ela kacha martem. But this is why you're here, because Torah's elokov belibo, because my children had the Torah of God in their hearts. So if you had come,
here it says belibo in the singular, but I
yes,
guess
belibo. Okay, and surely that you came, you got a double schar, which means you came. Now, question means you came for two children, or perhaps Rashi seems to say means you came because of them, and because of and me as well. So you get a double schar, and therefore l'chul levatechem l'shalom. So go home in peace to your houses. This was the soliloquy that Rabbi Akiva gives at the end of the big Shiva call that all these people come. So what exactly he says and who the children were and why they died is not really germane to the topic, but you see, this is very, very raw. They just came to visit Rabbi Akiva, and apparently the story is right in the first 3 days, Rabbi Akiva gets up and not only he speaks to the people, but he refers to, says, L'chul lebatechem l'shalom. Okay? Now, you're going to say, well, that's not Shalom Aleichem. Yes, it is. Yeah. Okay? So, he didn't have to say the word L'Shalom. But the fact that he invokes peace to them means that a mourner can refer and reflect upon peace. So, he says Shalom at the end of the sentence, Shalom at the beginning of the sentence is the same thing. So the Gemara's answer is Kavod Rabim Shani. That when you're dealing with a large multitude, so then even in the first 3 days, an Avel is permitted to respond to the people and to give Shalom to them. Okay, so in other words, there's a concept here of Kavod Atzibor, which trumps the sadness of Avelus, of the Avel.
On the other hand, a person is not, during their Avelus, allowed to go into events which involve a lot of people.
That's about Simcha. That's about Simcha.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Events could be a lecture, not a wedding, not a bar mitzvah.
I don't know the novel can't go to a lecture. An Avel not
Like a party or a dinner or
a
something.
party or dinner is different.
No,
So
he's
going to a
saying
lecture.
lecture.
Go to a lecture.
But there's a lot of people in other words, he's asking.
With a lot of people, it's different than just a private shear. It's much.
I'm not convinced. I don't know. Not unless
With a
there's not.
party or dinner party or
Yeah, unless having a party at the shir, like a kiddush or something.
So shir is what you
Shir is learning. After Shiva Shul, should go to shir. Yeah, I think
So
so.
during Shiva, we're talking
There's a grand community lecture.
Maybe not like
Community
Sima
lecture.
Shas, maybe not that.
This is talking 3 days, the first 3 days.
Right. So he can't go out of his house during Shiva. Maybe that's why he can't go to shir. But I think the real key here is that Kavarat Tzibor is a very important value, and if a lot of people come, that overrides the inability of the Avel to return one's greeting and refer to Shalom.
Interestingly, Rabbi, it doesn't actually say he can't go out of his house, right? I mean, so far, I'm not saying it won't say it later, but we never, I mean, they had a lot of things he can't do. We saw a whole list last week and this week, but so far, he said couldn't go out of his house. I mean, he can't go to work, he can't do this, but I'm not saying, I'm just mentioning.
The definition of sitting Shiva is you are home. Can he go home at night? So the halacha is, at night he can go home. You go b'tzina. Right? Can Havel transfer locations in the middle? Yes, if there's a reason for it. It happens all the time. I'm saying, but being at home, you have no reason to go out.
Well, except to a lecture we just said, but that's what we're talking about.
But Havel can't learn Torah during the week of Shiva.
Yeah.
So he just so.
Yeah.
All right.
That's the answer.
Right. I mean, the best case of learning in public is when there's a learning between Mincha Marav, right, at a Shiva house, right? So he doesn't have to leave; he's there, even though he's really not learning. So anyways, this is about the first 3 days. The second part of the mission is Migimel ad Zayin Meishiv Eino Shoel. From 3 to 7, he can respond. He can ask. Mikan Ve'elach Shol Meishiv Kedarko. Okay, so after 30 days, he's back to normal, and he can be Sholem Eshiv Kedarka. The Gemara has a question on this. V'raminhu, the Gemara says, the Gemara's question, Hamotzias Chavero Avel B'toch Lamed Yom. You find the person, your friend, within 30 days. So he's in Shloshim. Medaber imo tanchumim ve'eno shol v'shlomo. So during 30 days, you can't be shol and shalom of the Avel, even in Shloshim. Liachar lamed yom shol v'shlomo ve'medaber imo tanchumim. After 30 days, you speak properly, and there's no more nechama. Correct.
This is an attack on the previous statement, right? Sounds like.
Correct. Right.
We said that after the Mikan Ve'elach, after the 7 days, you think you could ask and.
Right. So we haven't gotten to the attack part of the question. Okay. So it quotes the first part of the Brisa, which talks about three to up to Shloshim and after Shloshim, and it says, by the way, up until Shloshim, you can't be Shol b'Shlomo of the Avel. Even from 7 to 30 days, you can't. You can.
Within the 30 days, you're not allowed to.
You can't offer shalom to an Avel, and after 30 days you can, but you can't give him to nechama. Meisa ishto v'nasa isha acheres. This is his wife died, and he marries another woman. This is very quick, right?
Very quick.
So the Rishonim will say, well, there are the heterim for this are he was a Mekayim Pruravu, or.
What's the spacing? Immediately?
It looks
like within a few days or something.
During the Shloshim, we get the
looks like the Shloshim. Yeah, it looks like during the Shloshim.
Because I know a case, something like that, same thing.
Yeah.
During the Shloshim.
No, after Shloshim was the guy remarried.
Well, so the two reasons that are suggested by halacha are a about being mekayim pruruvu, and second of all, the more common case, it's not so common today anymore, is with little children.
Exactly.
Right. He's an almond. His wife died. He's got no one to take care of the kids. These were marriages of convenience. Makes a whole lot of sense, and therefore it was permissible. Otherwise, it sounds kind of macabre.
How long does Yibum take? What's the time?
How long?
What's the time period for Yibum?
Until Yibum?
What do you mean,
To marry people?
Unless you just
No, he's a
right
wife.
away.
What do you mean? You mean he's got a brother? He's
The husband died.
I was saying, died without children.
Oh, I see. So he's a brother.
So you have to wait 3 months until she's not pregnant.
See, she's pregnant, exactly.
Right. There's a discussion with Masechet Yevamos. What happens? You don't know.
Exactly.
Right.
With someone's McGarrett also, you gotta wait.
Correct. Okay, so let's go on with this long bryce here till we get to the attack question. So he gets married right away. You're not allowed, even if it's in Shloshim, you still can't give him the chama in respect to his second wife who he married, right? You want to give him the chama about his first wife.
Otherwise, it said,
Right.
30
Normally
days.
you got 30 days now, but however, if he remarries, once again, kavod habrios, shalom bayis trumps the value of giving nicham avelim. Okay, so normally give nicham avelim to shloshim. If he gets remarried within shloshim, which sounds to us very unusual, but could
Well, it says
happen.
you can't do it in his house, so
Right.
maybe outside you could do it, but maybe not in his house where his wife is, his new wife. Maybe.
Cool. Okay, correct.
Keep saying, Matsu b'shuk.
Right, matzah b'shuk. He sees him in the marketplace. Omer lo b'safa rafa b'kovod rosh. So then you can say it to him quietly and like with your head down. You don't make a big deal. Well, feel bad about your first wife. The second wife isn't done here. She's shopping. She's out of earshot and so forth. Okay. So that's the first opinion in the Brisa. Amar Avida Barabin v'husho b'shalom acherem shachem shuim b'shalom acherem eno sholim b'shlomo shehu eno shor b'shalom. So Avida Barabin says within shloshim, so others can give him shalom, and others can give him shalom, but he can't respond. Right? I'm sorry, the other way around. Husho b'shloma, he can give shalom. Others can't give shalom to him. The first opinion said that an avel, you can't give shalom. We don't know what the avel can do. Right? The first opinion talked about within shloshim, you can't ask the avel for give him shalom. Ostensibly, if you can't give him shalom, and he can't give you shalom back. We don't know. But according to Rabbi Rabin, then he can give shalom. He can ask for shalom, but people can't give him shalom. Okay, he's not in shalom, and other people are. Okay, so now for Hamidakatani Meshiv, Michlal d'Shailinan Lei. So where's the same Midaka? Where's the same Meshiv? Katani Meshiv. So I know. It goes back to the previous brisa, which our first brisa that we started with said on that fourth line, on the first 3 days, Yovel, the 2, 4, 6, 7th, 8th line. On Yovel, the first 3 days doesn't give shalom. From the 3rd to 7th day, he responds, but he doesn't show el. Okay, so actually, I don't know where this is referring to. Excuse me.
He says, "Sha'avel achar shlosha yamim meshiv shalom mikan shoalim lo b'shalom." It's a question.
The talk lamad yom v'kash lamad the tani b'tom shalom lo eno shoel. Let's say Meshiv. Let's see the word Meshiv. Thu Jul B'Shlom Achem Sharem Shlom Gomen Shlom 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 Kattan Meshiv Mechal the Shailin on Lay. Did I miss a word? Moses Chavero Moses Olam Adam Adam Ben Shlom Lagna Shlom Shlom Adam Moses Shlom Nasar Shlom Nasar Shlom Moses Shlom Nasar Shlom Busho Shlom Achem Sharem Shlom Shlom V'Acher Enam Shlom 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 from Kattan Meshiv Mechal the Shailin on Lay. Man tar toch laat met jongen in een show wel. Okay. Gimel Bad Zayin Meshe Veno Shoel. Gimel Bad Zayin Meshe Veno Shoel. Mikan Velach Shoel Meshe V'Gedarko. From Mechlau. I don't. Let me see. Someone's got a translation. I'm just confused.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Alright, well, we're going to since the first price is stated, return a greeting. Okay. Kattan Meshiv. Right, okay. Alright. So the first price is said that the first 3 days from the first 3 days of Shiva, he can respond, or he can't respond.
No, he can't respond.
Okay. After the first 3 days, from 3 to 7, he can be Meshiv and he can't be Shoel.
Exactly.
It actually says it very directly. So what is this? What is the brisa we just read now? So I guess Rabbi,
this isn't the first 3 days. It's a 30 days. Sure.
So what's this going? So the second brisa says others can't greet him until after Shloshim. Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. So the first brisa said. Actually, I don't see this. The first brisa said that from 3 until 7, he can be Meshiv.
Right.
And the second brisa says that you can't ask him at all in the first 30 days.
Exactly.
Which would so the question is, if you can't ask him, you can't be asking Mishalom in the first 30 days at all.
Right.
How could the first brisa suggest that he's going to respond? How could he respond
In the 4th to 7th day, you're saying.
Right. How could he respond? The first brisa at the top of the page said that between 3 and 7 he can respond.
Right. Which implies somebody asked him.
Correct. Which implies he was asked. And here it says you can't ask, you can't speak to him.
Right.
So if you can never speak to him until after 30 days, if you can never ask him shalom until after 30 days, how is it possible? How can he respond?
In the 4th to
Right.
7th day.
And our answer, of course, we know the answer. The answer is the person who asked him didn't know he was sitting Shiva. So we couldn't see the question because we didn't see it as a question because we understood the answer. Okay. So the Gemara, let's go back to the Gemara again. I'm sorry. So the Gemara says, Katani Meshiv, seeing that our brisa, that's the core of the brisa, the first brisa that this piece of Gemara started with, says Migimel Ad Zayin Meshiv Ein Shoel. Seeing it says Meshiv, that he is able to respond, which means if he can respond, who's he responding to? Other people have asked him. Mechal the Shailin Lei. So if people can ask him, how can this second brisa begin by telling us that if you meet your friend and he's still within the first 30 days, you can't shol b'shlomo? Because we already see from the 3rd to 7th day he's responding to people who are asking him.
Exactly.
So the Gemara says, well, the obvious answer is lo yadei. The person who asked him didn't know that he was sitting shiva. Okay.
Or was in Shloshim.
Or didn't know that he was in shiva or shloshim. Correct. Okay.
I mean, it's more,
But the question
it's more normal that he wouldn't know that he's in Shloshim. Because
right.
if he's in Shiva, he's at home.
Correct, but that's exactly the question. The question is on the part of the first Bryce that talks from 3 to 7.
Right. The first Bryce is still
So
saying
even
people
3 to
ask.
7, even 3 to 7, he can respond.
Right.
So that means someone is speaking to him.
Right.
So the Gemara's response is he didn't know. It's not about shloshim.
Right. Yeah.
The question of the Gemara is really the question that's being asked by 3 to 7.
Right.
So and that's what we all say. How is it possible he didn't know? The answer: he didn't know. I don't know. He didn't know.
He thought he was in some house for some other reason.
You know what? The Ovel is going to shul Friday night. He's going to shul, and it's still right on top of Shabbos, and you meet him. You didn't know. Say, oh, good Shabbos. How are you doing? That's very possible. You didn't get the bulletin. You didn't see the email
In
blast.
this day and age, the more probable situation is the person who is asking is simply ignorant about
The halakha.
proper halacha and proper etiquette.
True enough.
Yeah, forgot.
You would
Also,
think.
that person is also a person who doesn't know.
Yeah. Okay. So in our day and age, only because you tend to get these emails and tend to see who's who and know who's who, and you would know about it. But I don't know. It's actually possible. For example, today, when the Ovel does come to shul from Mincha on Friday night, it is possible if you did not know the Ovel was an Ovel, and you saw this guy, and you never saw him before, and you didn't pay attention to his scraggly beard, because everybody's got scraggly beards now, and you say to him, how are you? Right, there's a case.
Okay.
And then you open up and you see, oh, it's in the bulletin. I didn't read the bulletin yet.
Oh, you see him Nachman Bailey comes
When
in.
the Ovel comes to shul on Shabbos,
Yes.
you can greet him. Good Shabbos.
Yes, correct. Right, but on Friday, it comes Mincha before Shabbos.
Right.
And he came Mincha before Shabbos. He comes Mincha Friday night, Friday evening. It's not just Shabbos. And you're there for Mincha, and you didn't know that he is an Ovel, and you didn't get the Kaddish. And you say to him, oh, Rabbi, Shalom Aleichem, good Shabbos, how are you? That comes up. Okay, so it is possible. So,
Even if you know that the guy is an Ovel and is in shul on Shabbos, you can still greet him, give him a Shabbos greeting.
yes, but Friday is not Shabbos.
No, agree.
Yeah, okay. So the Gemara says, Ihachi Hasam Nami. So the Gemara says, okay, if that's the case about 3 to 7, Hasam Nami is about what about up before 3 days? So what happens when someone says to an Ovel in the first 3 days, even before 3 to 7, Shalom Aleichem, what's the halacha for the Ovel to do? Doesn't respond.
Not supposed to respond.
In fact, what does he do? So he can't say Shalom, he can't be Meishiv. So the Gemara says, well, it should be the same thing. Maybe that halacha should apply then universally, even before the 4th day. So the Gemara says, Ihachi Hasam Nami, there as well, the other case as well. The first case, Avol Gimel Yomim Rishonim Asa B'Shela Shalom all together.
30 days, why should we be able to do it in 4 or 3 or any time?
So we said the idea is where someone's saying to him is Lo Yadeh.
Exactly. So
So Lo Yadeh, so they should also respond. So the Gemara says, you're right, it's different though. Hasam Meida Lahu V'lo Mahad Lahu. There, he makes the guy aware that he's an Ovel, he doesn't respond. What exactly we saw in the halacha about. Hacha Lo Tzarech Laduye. So here, from 3 to 7, the Ovel Velas, I guess, a little bit less. So you don't. Both cases are cases where the person didn't know. In the first case, up until 3 days, you just say I'm an Ovel. In the second case, from 3 to 7, you're allowed to respond to the person who said Shalom Aleichem to you. So notice, and therefore, when it says Gimel Yamim Rishonim, Gimel Yamim Asa B'Shela Shalom, so the Ovel says I'm an Ovel, and from 3 to 7 days, he doesn't have to tell him if the person didn't know he was an Ovel, but he simply responds.
Right.
That's, by the way, that gives rise to what the Sefer said, that if the guy knew he was an Ovel and said it to him, then the Ovel doesn't respond after 3 days. Because the only heter is Lo Yadeh. The Gemara tells us Lo Yadeh. What happens if he did know, but he's Lahachas kind of guy? He doesn't, right? So then the Ovel does not respond. Okay, next question. Raminhu. Hamotis chavera ava b'toch yud beis chodesh medaber imo tanchumim ve'eno shol b'shlomo. Okay, so this is now past the 30 days. The year, 30 days to a year. So you give him tanchumim up until a year. Ve'eno shol b'shlomo. Okay.
I thought you said after 30 days we don't give tanchumim.
So the Gemara is going to ask. Okay. So la'achar yud beis chodesh. Le'achar yud beis chodesh shol b'shlomo ve'medaber imo tanchumim. But after 12 months, there is no tanchumim altogether. All right. Okay. So but you kind of speak to him, I guess. You comfort him indirectly after that time period. Okay. And right. So and the Gemara gives an example. So Amar Rav Meir Hamotzis Chavera Alva Leachar Yud Beis Chodesh V'Medabri Mo Tanchumim. If you see a person after 12 months and you're giving him Nichum Avelim after the year is over, Lamahu Doma, what's it comparable? Adam Shnish Baraglo, person broke his leg v'chaysan and was cured, was fixed. Now it's cured on its own. Matzal roll face, he finds the doctor, and the doctor says to him, Vamalo Kelecha Etzli, come to me. Shani Shovra V'Arpaena. I'll break it again and fix it. Kadesha Teda Shesam Manim Shli Yafin. You'll know and see that I actually am a good doctor. So therefore, after a year, the others made it to a year, you can't wish him the Chum Avelim anymore. He's recovered. He's been rehabilitated into society completely. So the Gemara says, okay, so this brisa we read says up until after a month, after a year, we all understand you can't give any tanchumim, but up until a year, seems to say you can. So the Gemara's response is, Lo kasha ha bi'avi v'imo ha b'shar krovin. Okay? The mother and father, you can go up to 12 months. For other krovim, you can't give nichum past 30 days. So I guess for parents, you can't give nichum.
That was a year.
Yeah, you can give nichum up until a year. Okay. So what's the Gemara's right? So Gemara says Hasam Nami Yedaber Imo Tanchumim Menatzad. So the Gemara says, wait, if that's the case, so why with a parent? I guess is this?
Well, it seemed to say that after 12 months you still
right. So after regular krovim, after 30 days you can't give nichum avelim. So for a parent it's up until a year.
Right.
For other krovim it's up until 30 days. So Gemara says Hasam Nami Yedaber Imo Tanchumim Menatzad. If other relatives you see them after 30 days, why can't you speak to them indirectly the same way that you can speak to parents
after a year
indirectly, saying the same thing? And because the Gemara is now saying the only time you get from 30 days until 12 months is for a parent. Everyone else, there's no nichum avelim at all. So the Gemara says, you're right, enochinami. You're right, you're correct. For a regular krovim, umay eno medaber imo tanchumim kedarko, means you can't give nichum avelim, avo medaber imo min hatzad. Okay, so you can give it to him indirectly. So therefore, it comes out that after 30 days for a regular karov, and after a year for parents, you can give indirect kind of nichum avelim. What does that mean, indirect nichum avelim? It actually means you don't mention the name of the niftar. Right? So you can talk about, you can comfort him, say, I'm terrible, sorry about your loss, and this and that, terrible thing. I don't know if it means you can't mention who the relative is. I think it means you can't mention the name of the person directly. The moment you mention the name, it's going to open up all kinds of emotions, and the person's been already rehabilitated. So these are the different rules that we have. Once again, I didn't put it together, I obviously took it from somewhere. Okay. Can't take credit for this. Here we go. Enough to go around. A worksheet, a summary sheet. Okay. This is one of these Daf Yomi places. Kol Yonadav. Okay. It's actually a good sheet. Good thing. Can you give Gavelus? Can you comfort an Avel? And when can they return one's greetings? Okay. So once again, they've got all the differences between them. First 3 days.
This is halacha. This is the Gemara.
This is the Gemara. Okay. I believe it is halacha. Okay. This is the summary. So first 3 days, then can you give a comfort to an oval? Yes. Can the oval return the greeting? No. And what does the oval say? We saw that in the Gemara simply says, I'm an oval. That's footnote number 3. Can an oval initiate a greeting? In other words, and this means a verbal greeting, but a novel can always nod his head. So the answer is no. And he can, however, the exception to the rule, says footnote 4, is you can initiate a greeting to a large group.
This is Rabbi Akiva.
This is Rabbi Akiva, correct. Can you greet an novel with shalom? So in the first 3 days you can't. There's no shalom whatsoever. The aval can initiate, the aval can return, and you can't give shalom to the aval. Next, number 2, 3 to 7 days. Can you give tanchumim to an aval? The answer is yes. Right? Can the aval return one's greeting? The answer is yes. You were allowed to return the greeting, and they call this for the sake of peace in footnote number 5, darkish shalom. Right? If one didn't know the aval was an aval, the aval can respond. Can the aval initiate a greeting? No, he can't, except for a large group. Can one greet an aval with shalom if you knew he's an aval? The answer is no. Okay. This is after Shiva now, 7 to 30 days. Can one comfort an aval? Yes. Can an aval return one's greeting? Yes. Can an aval initiate a greeting? Yes. Can one greet an aval with shalom? And the halacha is, the Gemara says, you can't do it even until 30 days. So after something we probably don't do as carefully, right? We don't really. Part of the problem is we don't keep track of when people are in shloshim or not, unless you see them come to shul.
Unless you're close with them.
Unless you're close with them, correct?
You forget. You lose track.
The last one is after Chodesh until Yud Beis Chodesh. So can one comfort a novel? No, because except that you can do it min hatzad. This we're dealing with regular karov, not parents. So which means you can mention footnote 6. You can comfort the novel without mentioning the name of the deceased. One is permitted to comfort a novel whose parents died until 12 months have passed from the death. Can an aval return one's greeting? Yes. Can an aval initiate a greeting? Yes. Can one greet an aval with shalom? The answer is yes, except for one's parent, which you can, I guess, begin shalom with a parent until 12 months have passed. Once again, a halacha that we probably don't keep as carefully. Okay. Right. Once again, I don't think the word cognizant when we say shalom aleichem of the significance of what it is.
Shalom is God's name, right?
Shalom is God's name, correct. Yeah. Shalom is God's name. The peace of God be with you. Right? Shalom aleichem malach eshares. I don't know. So, but that's the summary of the Gemara, and that's really what it comes down to halacha. Okay, it's a good summary.
What's the reason for no after 30 days to 12? What's the reason for that no?
No what? Which no?
Say shalom?
Number 4. You can't comfort. Why would you say not the comfort?
Because comforting means that you want to empathize with him, and you feel he's still in a hole, and you need to pull him out.
Well, you did it for the first 30 days.
No, so that's what means. So what you can do is minatzad. You can speak about. You can talk about it. You can't really directly talk about and try to give nichem avelim. It's very. The reason is Chazal felt that the avel was rehabilitated. You're putting him back down.
Well, some are, some aren't. You know?
So once again, as I said before, the laws of avelus, Chazal tried to formalize what they felt were the da'at of most people, which has exceptions, of course, but they felt this was the way to, when you have a formal structure of nichem avelim. Now, what does mean nichem avelim? So, nichem avelim is hamokim ilachem eschem misoch shavel tzim shloim. And by the way, that's when it says that you can comfort an avel, it means you can say hamokim ilachem eschem misoch shavel shloim until the person is in shloshim. That, by the way, is a halacha that many people don't know. Right? It's not. Oh, I'm sorry for your loss. That's min hatzad. The direct way is you should be comforted. I want God to comfort you. With all the other people who did this, I can't say that after shloshim because my assumption is the person has found some measure of comfort. Look, we all know psychologically the wound never heals, but it kind of becomes less acute. Because an avel gets back into a routine. There's the process. There's been a lot written by the logic of Chazal in the period of Shloshim, the period of Shiva, Shloshim, and Yud Beis Chodesh, and we've seen the subset of 3 days and 7 days. right? Where 7 days, 3 days are very intense, and then the 4, 5, 6, 7 are less intense. So that's how we formalize it.
They could have been afraid after 30 days that bringing back the sadness.
Yes, you're putting it back in the hole.
You're allowed to make more sadness than.
No, right, but I'm saying, but all of halacha is about formalizing certain things. Wine represents simcha. There are kosot. Chazal felt you drink 4 cups of wine, you're going to be very happy. You'll be more relaxed. You'll be open up. It's celebratory to the Almighty. Some people probably drink 4 cups of wine, they're flat out. Some people may not affect, right? It may vary on how much alcohol is in the wine, and so forth and so on. Chazal felt of how much do you have to eat to be satisfied. The kabeya, size of an egg. There are probably people that can eat more and not be satisfied, and people can eat less and be satisfied. Chazal looked at a normal routine. So all the halachas that come up, or most of the halachas, seem to follow a normal way of formalizing certain things. Chazal wanted to stress that the Jewish people wanted to have unity coming together in the story of Purim. Okay, so what did they do? Mishlach monod ishleya matanas lavyonim. You could have done it in a lot of other ways, but this was the way that Chazal felt this was a way to show unity. Doesn't mean you can't show unity. It means that the halachic formalization is in this fashion. Okay, we'll start the next piece of Gemara. Okay, next piece of Gemara talks about something called Gadol Habayis. It talks about coming to Shiva late. If you come late to Shiva, when you come late, you arrive in the Shiva house. Sorry again. The Avel hears about the Petira and is unable to arrive at the house of Shiva until after everybody else has started. Okay. In other words,
there's other family members.
Family members, a close relative who's sitting Shiva for the deceased, arrives later than the other members of the family have started. Okay, so now if the person sat Shiva somewhere else, that's not the discussion. People can sit Shiva in one place. You can sit Shiva and then take a plane and continue Shiva when you get there. That's not the situation. The situation is the person arrives, they start sitting Shiva on Monday, they came back from the Levaya. Tuesday the person arrives and he joins the Shiva. He hasn't started Shiva before then. He didn't. They weren't in communication. He didn't even know when the Kfura was. Right? So that's and it's a little difference whether he is within a one-day journey or a little further. And the other part that comes up is about what's called Gadol Habayis. The Gadol Habayis is the
word Gadol, right? Gadol, like as Gadol?
As Gadol. The question what that means. It means the person who people normally follow. The person who usually makes decisions for the family. Now how do you define that? For example, it's clear if a parent is alive, right? Let's say a parent's spouse dies and there are children. Who's the Gadol Habayis? The parent, right? It's less clear if there is no one like that. We say the older brother. The older brother is simply an older brother. What does he get? Pishnayim. He gets primogenitor. He's not really the Gadol Habayis. So it's a little fuzzy. How do you define who is the Gadol Habayis the Gemara is going to be referring to? But that's nonetheless it'll come up in this kind of discussion. Okay, so let's begin this piece of Gemara here. We'll just get into it. Tan Rabbanan, 5 lines from the bottom. Avel Gimel Yomim Harishonim, the first 3 days of the Shiva. Forget. I won't be here next week. Before I forget.
You won't be. Oh.
I'm away at a conference. I forgot. Okay. So there you go.
Anywhere good?
Philadelphia. Okay.
City of brotherly love, eh?
City of brotherly love. Okay, but I'm going out Sunday morning, coming back Tuesday, and I'm sorry. Tanrabana Ava Gimel Yomim Arishonim, Bami Makam Karav Moni Mahem, Bami Makam Rachak Moni Mahem. If he comes for the first 3 days, according to this opinion, if he comes from a faraway place, what's far away, what's close? So
first one is close, right?
Yeah, but how close is close and how far is far?
So, but what are they saying? So again, the scenario is people are sitting Shiva, or his brothers, his relative, they're sitting Shiva. He should be also sitting Shiva, but he was in another place, let's say, okay?
Right.
They already sitting one day, and he comes, let's say, the second day.
So correct.
Is that the scenario?
He comes the second day, correct?
Let's say.
Correct, or even up until the third day.
Okay, but let's say so far, maybe.
But, right. The question is, what's considered makom karov? What's considered makom rachok?
3 parsecs.
Correct. Or Tosa
But
says
even if it's
10
close,
parsecs.
one day Moed
Which means it's a travel distance of 1 day. It's a 1 day travel distance.
Yeah, but I want to make sure
Well,
I understand them in Moed Imam. It means
where
that
he
now
ends. He ends when they end.
Right, I got you. So he's only
He
sat
falls
perhaps
into
6
step with
days.
them.
Right. He falls in the step with them.
Got you.
That's what this means.
Counted
Okay?
with them.
He counts with them, and therefore, if he comes in on the third day, he's only got third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and
Gotcha.
seventh day.
Right.
Right.
Oh, he doesn't start counting.
He doesn't start from zero.
So if he's not important, then
We didn't.
Well,
We
we
didn't,
didn't get that
talk,
into
we didn't
the
talk about the important people. Just if he. The difference is if he is in Makom Karov,
Right.
and Karov is a 1 day journey.
Right.
So even if he arrives up until 3 days, he counts with them. The logic is 1 day journey means he could have gotten there on time. For whatever reason, he was held up and delayed. But there was a potential, because he was a 1 day journey, if things had stacked up correctly, he could have arrived with the Shiva people on the same day they're beginning Shiva. That's the logic behind it. Okay, so therefore, he had the potential to begin with them, he arrives, and therefore he ends with them. That's this opinion. Okay. If he comes with Makom Rachok, Mona Liatzmo. If he comes with even the first 3 days, but he's coming from a faraway distance means more than 1 day travel. Obviously, it's less than a 3 day travel. Okay, because otherwise you can get there within the first 3 days. Then he's considered to be a separate person, and he counts 7 days by himself. He comes, he sits down. That's the first day, and he would get up later. Okay, Mikan va'elech. From after the third day, beginning on the fourth day, afilu bo mimakom karov mona liatzmo. Even if he comes to makom karov, that's already considered. Now, why is the fourth day considered any different? That's probably already most of the shiva is gone, right? You're in the second half, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you lost the first 3 days. So Rabbi Shimon Omer afilu bo b'yom hashvi. Mimakom Karav Monei Mohem. If it's Makom Karav according to Rabbi Shimon, even if he shows up the last day, okay, he can still be considered part of the Avelim, provided, by the way, they haven't gotten up. Right, our 7th day is they get up right after Shachar. So if they got up and he shows up an hour later, too bad. Start from the beginning.
Extreme thing. Monel Atzmo.
Yes.
So again.
Yeah.
So if he comes, again, on the third day, from a thing, only 1 day journey, he sits with them, right? He's just part of their Shiva. He joins the third day, but he was only 1 day journey away.
Correct. The same way that we cut off partial days for Shiva, we cut off partial Shiva, he joins the family.
But if he was 2 days journey away,
right, and
he comes and sits.
The svara is that he was close enough to have come, made it. So therefore, if he delayed for whatever reason, okay, right. Rabbi Shimon is the most radical concept. He says you don't. It's not concerned which day of the shiva you come, but even even the 7th day, and even though they get up to 7 days, as long as they're still sitting, right. So nonetheless, that's still considered he is part of that shiva, and he would have a very apocalyptic short shiva, just the day of Yom Shvi, and get up with them. Okay. Comes along the bride. The go to analyzing the bride. So we'll just do a couple more lines. Amar Gimel Yomim Marishonim Bomi Makom Krav Moni Mohem. This is what we just read. Amrav Chibra Ava Amrav Yochanan V'hu Sheish Gadol Bayis Babayis. Provided, when does he join with the people? And he comes, he has to have 2 things. Comes the first 3 days, he comes from Makom Karov, and he joins the family when the Gadol Bayis is present. Okay, what does that mean? That means the family is centered around this major figure, this patriarchal figure who everybody recognizes. So then you understand this guy could have been there at the beginning. The family is centered around the patriarch. He comes. He automatically slips into around everything is decided by the patriarch. Patriarch says, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. He makes a decision. So the family is following really what the patriarch, what the Gadol Habayis is doing. I'm using patriarch because that's a term that you can identify, right? But because that's the case of Gadol Habayis. But what happens if he comes and the Gadol Habayis is not there? Right? Maybe the Gadol Habayis went with the Aron. Right? Once you leave the Aron, right? If you leave the Aron, you begin sitting Shiva at the point where you leave the Aron. So, for example, if they send the casket to Eretz Yisrael, right? There's, by the way, an example. Send the casket to Eretz Yisrael. Usually in Eretz Yisrael, they're makbid to put the guy back on the plane. Right? The Chevra Kadisha, in many cases, if there's family sitting back here, he'll get off the plane, go to the Kvura, and they take him right back. They don't let him sit Shiva because they want him to be mitzdaref, come back to what the family is, and to so to speak, be within that count.